So with Ohio State losing to Oregon 32-31, you guys already know the toxic conversation that's going on surrounding Ryan Day. He now is 2-6 at Ohio State against top 5 teams. And everybody is saying how Ryan Day can't win big games. He's holding back Ohio State. He got this job at third base, and the only thing he's done is underachieve. And I feel like those criticisms are fair, but I also believe that the crowd that keeps yelling that Ryan Day can't win the big game is overreacting to one loss. There's nothing wrong with losing to Oregon, who has proven to be one of the best teams in college football this year, on the road by 1 point. You probably are going to see Oregon again in the Big Ten title game if you're able to take care of business against Penn State, something that Ryan Day has always done. And the thing about Ryan Day is that when you're coaching at a program like Ohio State, where the fan base expects to win a national championship every single year, when you lose games like this, people are going to start questioning how legitimate are you as a good head coach in college football. Because right now it kind of looks like Ryan Day is not a great coach, not a bad coach, but kind of a little bit of a tweener. He inherited an already built program from Urban Meyer, and he was able to take it and sustain it, but he hasn't been able to make it better. He hasn't been able to get Ohio State hoisting that national championship trophy. But just because he has had his fair share of shortcomings so far throughout his career as the head coach for the Buckeyes doesn't mean that Ryan Day is incapable of being able to win big games. You see, I'm not going to say that Ryan Day can't win big games. I'm going to say that Ryan Day hasn't won the big game yet for Ohio State, which is beating Michigan, being able to win the Big Ten championship, and hoisting that national championship gold. All right? He definitely is good enough to be able to get it done. The worst Ohio State has done under Ryan Day is had 2 losses. And Ryan Day, you know, before Urban Meyer came around, he probably is the best head coach that this program has had in recent memory. Okay, before Urban Meyer came, Ohio State was pretty much irrelevant when it came to football at that time, and Urban came in and resurrected the program, and then he handed it over to Ryan Day, and Ryan Day has been able to sustain that level of success. But the way people talk about Ryan Day, when they compare him to Urban Meyer, they make it seem like Urban Meyer was winning national titles at Ohio State every single year. Urban Meyer had his fair share of losses that you could criticize. It's not like he had an entire coaching career at Ohio State when Ohio State was just dominating everybody and they never lost. So if we're going to make it seem like Urban Meyer was winning year after year at Ohio State, we got to cut it out. All right? Ryan Day has shown that he can win big games. He was able to beat Penn State. He wasn't always losing to Michigan. At one point, he was still keeping the tradition of owning Michigan alive for Ohio State. So I'm not going to come out and say that Ohio State can't win big games with Ryan Day being the head coach. They beat Notre Dame on the road last year. You know, they beat Clemson a few years ago to play Alabama in the national championship game. And when they lost to Georgia in the semifinals a few years ago, when they had C.J. Stroud, they lost that game by 1 point. They only lost that game due to a missed field goal. So it's not like Ryan Day is getting out-coached and outclassed in these big-time games. It's just that he's coming up 1 play short. Either it's a missed field goal, or you have bad clock management the final seconds of the game, like what we saw with Will Howard not being able to get down in time enough for Ohio State to call that last timeout to set up them getting a potential game-winning field goal. But there still is a lot that Ryan Day has showed in his 7 years at Ohio State that he's more than able to get this program hoisting that championship trophy. And I just feel it's a lot of major overreactions out there that Ryan Day can't win big games when he's won big games in the past. He's won top 10 games. He's won top 25 games. Like, people just want to take this top 5 record or him against top 5 teams and use this 2-6 record when it's really misconstrued? Why not say his record against top 10 teams? Why not say his record against top 25 opponents? The reality of the situation is that Ryan Day has yet to get Ohio State to the level that Urban Meyer had it at one point when he won the national championship. That's the only thing off Ryan Day's bucket list that he hasn't been able to accomplish at Ohio State yet. But just because he hasn't done it yet doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. You only lost to Oregon by 1 point. That shows you that they were good enough to win that game. It's not like Oregon beat them 45-3. With the way people talk about Ryan Day after this game, they're making it seem like Ohio State got outclassed when that could be further from the truth. You know, like, that was a really well-played game. Both teams had their fair share of opportunities to win, and it's just that Ohio State couldn't get their field goal on the team in time enough to win that game. They just ran out of time. I don't really feel like Ohio State lost to Oregon. I feel like Ohio State just ran out of time to beat Oregon. That's how I look at it. But to say that Ryan Day can't win big games is a major overreaction, man. He's 2-6 against top 5 teams. He's pretty good against top 10 and top 25 opponents. He has owned James Franklin ever since he took over the reins at this job. You know, let's just chill out on these toxic narratives about Ryan Day. Okay, I'm not about to say that this dude is holding back this program when people were having similar conversations about Kirby Smart a few years ago. Remember when Georgia kept coming up short and people were saying how Kirby Smart can't beat Nick Saban, Kirby Smart is Mark Richt 2.0. You know, like, Ohio State is this close to winning a national championship. They could win the Natty any year over the next 4 or 5 seasons. It's not like it's the NFL and they got a championship window. If they don't win it now, they'll never be able to do so. Ohio State always has a great NIL back end. They got a lot of good resources out there so they can recruit some of the best high schoolers on the planet. They can get the best players in the transfer portal if they need them at certain positions. It's like Ohio State is eventually going to get over the hump at Ryan Day. They got way too much going on as far as resources, NIL, for him not to be able to get it done. If Oregon and Ohio State were to play today, I would take Ohio State to win that game. Not because I don't have respect for Oregon, but just because I can't see Oregon beating Ohio State twice when they barely beat them. They only beat them by 1 point. So if you lose by only 1 point, doesn't that show that you were going up against an evenly matched team? And if the ball would have bounced in a different direction, Ohio State could have won that game. Because if Oregon loses that game, let's say Ohio State gets that last time out, they kick that game-winning field goal and they win the game, then we're having a different conversation. Instead of saying that Ryan Day can't win big games, people are now going to start saying that Dan Lanning can't win big games based off him losing to Washington and Kalen DeBoer twice last season. You know, it's just funny how these discussions in college football go on when you could have the same discussion about Dan Lanning if Oregon doesn't win this game. It's just one game. There's a great chance that Ohio State can see Oregon again. The AP just released their new top 25 poll. Hey man, have you hit that like button yet? Have you subscribed to the channel? Because if not, what are you doing? It only takes less than a second to do so, man. I love football. You love football. This is the best place to be if you are a diehard fan of football, man. We're talking NFL, college football, 24/7, 365 days a year. If you are a diehard football fan, this is the right place for you. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon so you don't miss when we drop new content, and go live.